Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Michael Sisco show, which is the best show on Thursday nights. Just kidding, just kidding. Orthodoxy First is probably better than my show, but just kidding. Yes, Tatiana, we was running a little late because I had to get a little bit of coffee, but different kind of. We're gonna be a little more laid back today than usual. We have some very law-abiding citizens and Keith, who were witnesses to the events of yesterday, and they're going to be explaining why. Hang on, how's that audio doing? They're going to be explaining why everyone who entered the Capitol building yesterday are domestic terrorists and should be thrown in prison. So welcome to the show, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Obviously your cameras are off for obvious reasons because we've had politicians basically like Lindsey Graham threatening to have everyone charged with basically sedition crimes for entering the Capitol. But to the best of y'all's ability, can you introduce yourselves while I set up super chat somehow? Without implicating yourselves in as domestic terrorists.
I'll just introduce myself as Telesterion, and I'm with my partner here, Celeritis.
I work in the tech industry, and she's a stay-at-home wife.
That's right.
Based?
Yeah,
Wait,
my name is Keith.
Ain't all wives stay at home?
Should be.
Much happier that way.
Based? So, all right, who are you, Keith?
All right, my name is Keith, and I started going to these protests back in November, and I'm Orthodox. I don't want to name my church or anything like that, but met Michael and his crew, and just been witnessing all the craziness, and that's about it, really.
Nice. Yeah, I set you guys up, so I got you all ramped up for the first couple rallies, and then the one that I knew that you would get in trouble for, I didn't show up to. So
Perfect.
I'm just kidding. It was just obviously bad timing, moving to West Virginia and whatnot. But anyways, so I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of Trump's little concession speech. So we just had that while I was streaming with what's his name? Luke Kindrat on Orthodoxy First. So that's not cool. But what are your impressions? I guess you can all chime into these questions. When Trump was speaking yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to really watch the speech. What were your impressions of of his address to the crowd yesterday? And would you say that he incited any of the events later in the evening?
I don't really know if he meant to, but what you saw at the beginning was just an explosion of energy, and not only in his usual fashion coming out over an hour late, but right from the get-go, some of the first words that he was saying was everything was in past tense. Like, we fought a good battle, look what we've accomplished. And this continued to go on, and you could actually see it. It was crazy. Looking around, you could see thousands of people, their faces change. You saw them from looking at their fearless leader to all hope is lost. And sort of as it evolved, people just started walking away. And we thought it was over. We thought everything was deflated. And as we'd kind of exited the lawn, we finally got cell phone signal and saw that people were storming the Capitol building. By the time that we had gotten out, it was already breached. And I think what happened was more and more people had started to get that news, and they all started congregating again. But you could actually see the hope in people sort of fall off as he was speaking.
Yeah, people started leaving in the middle of his speech. It was almost like a rally speech, like the same old, not the bombshell news he was supposed to drop. And so he wasn't even done speaking, and people were leaving in droves.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that. Honestly, I really didn't see when he started talking. I kind of felt like that what was happening was he was just saying a whole lot of nothing, and I felt honestly after that I kind of was sort of wanting to just head out, and it seemed like within 5 minutes after we left, things just got really crazy, and it escalated probably faster than I've ever seen anything escalate. It went from literally us sitting on the bench to wondering what we were going to do as far as get something to eat to running into the, running towards the Capitol and just seeing the Capitol getting swarmed by just like tons of people.
And that was one of the crazy things too. Is as people started to file in on the Capitol building, it was working up. People were getting more and more amped up the closer we got to the building, where they were climbing the barricades. They were just, it reached a critical mass. I think when people all got there together, there was definitely an energy moving through the crowd.
Yeah, and I want to say something about the guy climbing the wall, because that was something that I don't really know what was going on there, but the one thing that I remember when I saw that guy, there was one guy that was climbing the wall in a red shirt. And I remember when I saw that instantly, the first thing that I thought was that guy is going to get sniped. And I said that like 10 times, and he didn't. And that made me feel weird, because it made me, and I really didn't think about it until today, because there's a lot of stuff going around that, some of this stuff could have been, I don't know. I mean, I don't know even what I'm trying to say, but there's some people that are kind of saying that maybe they let some of this go on, and I don't know. A lot of the things that I saw felt funny. It's all I'm gonna say.
Well, and that's one of the really crazy things that shifted too. When we got there, police were removing barricades. There was one point where when we had actually breached the house, they were surrounding us. They were filing in. They were preparing more gas. And we started, screaming, form a line, keep them out. And they got there and they didn't do anything. They just stopped. They didn't attempt to stop us. They didn't arrest anybody. They just watched for a long time. And if you compare that to how they acted afterwards, they were beating people bloody. They started shooting. They allowed it to get to that point, and then the attitude changed instantly. It doesn't, something just doesn't add up about it.
I know, let's see, Radix Verum from, what's her channel called? Patriot Broadcast or whatever it's called. I saw a bunch of boomers who just followed the people in front of them, and police did move barricades.
There was a lot of old people, a lot of 70-year-olds, a lot of
actually in the building
with us. It was all people. That was kind of surprising. It's like, what are you doing here?
And these kind of people wouldn't have been able to make it in there if there was any reasonable amount of force shown against us when the breaching was going on.
Yeah. So were you guys getting real-time updates when you said that the updates really happened after you left the lawn?
Mm-hmm. It was once we got about maybe 100 feet away, everyone's phones just started working again. And I think sort of everybody, I'm sure some people were just following crowds out, but a lot of people, I think, were starting to get this news that something was going on. And you could kind of see it energize people as they were walking away. People started running towards the Capitol building. When we saw it, we thought it was bullshit. You're walking away from the worst speech ever, deflated, and all of a sudden you hear the Capitol building's been breached. Like, that's fucking nuts. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that when I heard that they were storming the Capitol building, the first thing that I thought was, this is just going to be a bunch of people in front of the barricades just cheering and just yelling a bunch of stuff, but it's not going to actually, I didn't really think anybody was actually going to be storming the Capitol. And then when I got up and saw it, literally, it was people storming the Capitol. And it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Interesting. So a lot of people are saying that in the chats that this was a false flag, a setup. What do you I personally thought it was pretty epic when it happened. And I know it's going to be used as a bludgeon against us for probably the next decade at least, against the right wing in general. But part of me feels like we crossed the point of no return, and that might be a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, after every single scandal that's come out, after they captured our government, our Senate, all these different offices, the president, the voting's gone. I mean, something needed to give. So if it was a setup or if it wasn't, something was bound to happen.
And I know this is, this kind of sounds like, a little delusional, like, trying to hold on to hope. But that speech that Trump gave, I mean, when you really think about it, when people get their most extreme and they fight the hardest, kind of when they feel like no one's going to save them. And, in a sense, this might be accidental or it might not be. I mean, you have to figure Trump is a genius. He's played the business world. He knows psychological mind games. He knows how to get into people's heads and manipulate them to do what he wants. That's how you become a billionaire. And so in a way, I almost wonder if stepping back and letting the movement guide itself was an intentional move. I mean, there's no doubt that he's under incredible amounts of pressure, from powers that will strip everything from him. I'm sure his family's in danger. But also, in a sense, that speech tonight may have done something else for the movement. It may have shown us that we need to be our own destiny.
Yeah, I also want to say that I don't want to think that it was a setup. Like, I really don't. What I saw was really white pilling. I mean, it was when I saw people doing what they were, because that's been my problem with this whole thing is that, I mean, I'm not for destruction of property and stuff, but there gets to a certain point where you look at what Antifa does, and I don't know. I mean, it gets to a point where voting doesn't mean anything, and I don't really know what the right avenue is. But to see all those people doing that, it gave me a little bit of hope, because it made me realize, well, at least these people care enough to want to risk themselves to do this type of thing. I don't want to think that it was a setup, but I really have a lot of doubts that maybe this thing could have been guided at the least.
What are your thoughts on the whole? It was Antifa infiltrating that was antagonizing everything.
I think they absolutely were there, and I think they were trying to do that. But at the same time, I think that this would have happened regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think the answer is more somewhere in the middle, where they definitely did things, but I don't think it has as big of an impact as people would like to believe.
Yeah, so some boomer would have done it anyways.
I mean, those kids were crazy, man. If you were out there and saw what we saw, I mean, the media covered some of it, but it was actually something else to see what people were capable of. And there were so many people doing it that it couldn't possibly have been Antifa being the reason why.
Like force of nature.
So what about did you see the bullhorn guy?
Yeah.
What about Heimbach? Did you see Heimbach?
Are you talking? Is that the old guy that was sitting at the desk?
Yeah, no, Heimbach wasn't actually there. I'm just screwing. So I do want to. We were gonna have him on, but he didn't actually want to do any interviews after he thought about it. But there's a picture floating around with Matthew Heimbach and this guy with a big beard, who they said was an Antifa member, and they claim that he was the bearded guy in D.C. in the Capitol building. But I actually know the guy that was in the picture with Matthew Heimbach, and he was not in D.C. He was definitely not the guy that they said he was. His name is Jason. He lives in I don't want to dox him, but he's actually no longer involved in any sort of dissident movements and has turned his life. He's just not what he does anymore. So somehow now he's viral in an image claiming that he's a member of Antifa. But let's see. Radix says that She had interviewed a few minutes beforehand and saw them storming the building. They were Trump supporters. I was kind of offended at first that people were taking credit away from, because I was like, oh wow, oh my gosh, like finally Trump supporters actually did something, and then all the retarded boomers like, oh, it was fake. A little, yeah.
I was like, don't take our victory from us, you know. This is hard.
Do you think it's possible that I don't want to? I'm not trying to say that they were responsible, but is it possible that some of these people were Proud Boys undercover? I mean, is that a possibility?
We talked to a couple Proud Boys in plain clothes that were out there.
Yes, some of them were there. The ones that I saw that were there, they were clearly Proud Boys. They just didn't have any of the insignia on. They were just kind of standing around videotaping. They weren't really in the thick of the stuff like they normally would be with Antifa and whatnot.
We talked to one of them, and he's, you know, he basically said they didn't want to make themselves easy targets in this one. You know, I think after everything that happened, but they definitely still showed out. They just didn't assume a leadership role like they usually do.
Well, what I'm saying is that if let's say there were a large number of Proud Boys that were there undercover, do you think that wouldn't they have been able to sniff out who was Antifa? And I mean, wouldn't you think that? I mean, I would think that they would know more than anybody who these people were, because I mean, they're the ones that have the most contact with them, I think, of all these groups.
Yeah, I mean, one part of me thinks that it must have just been really tough in the crowd of things. You know, when we were really up in there, just packed, and there's tear gas going out, and that maybe another thing is that they were afraid to kind of out them in the middle of it. You know, because if the Proud Boys suddenly get fingers pointed at for pulling out Antifa, and I mean that mob would have stomped them kids. That pretty much would have been the end of the Proud Boys in D.C.
Yeah, they were really quiet.
So I'd be really curious to hear what their stance is on it, because I'm sure they saw things that they suspected. I almost wonder if they were just, kind of leery of doing anything drastic with how things have been going out for them.
They've been posting quite a bit on Telegram, but I haven't seen them say anything about any sort of Antifa infiltration or whatnot.
That was really the weird thing about that day too, is that both the Proud Boys and Antifa had a complete lack of presence there. It's something we've never seen before at a rally.
And Antifa, they're like retarded peacocks. You can always kind of point them out because they've got tattoos, they've got piercings, they've got their hair. I mean, you can just tell just by looking at them and looking in the crowd. I really didn't see, because normally in any kind of one of our rallies, you can normally pick them out and be like, oh yeah, they're totally undercover. But really, I didn't see many. I think I saw like one or two, and they were just kind of like with their video camera, like, look at this craziness. But it seemed like it was a lot of us.
At the same time, there were a lot of undercover journalists.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Really suspect journalists, for sure.
They were in the crowd way before anything else had broken out. They'd kind of been sleuthing around all day, like they were expecting something to happen.
I asked them who they worked for, and they just smiled and said, nobody, like real, not even identifying themselves with, $10,000 equipment.
Yeah, they had really expensive equipment and stuff, and the thing, and you could tell who they were because they had nothing on to identify themselves with anybody. But the thing about the Antifa, that's weird, because there's people that don't really watch this kind of stuff or keep track of it that much, that were texting my phone and were asking me what was going on. And that was kind of when I started to realize that this was huge, because I didn't realize when it was happening that this was getting the press that it was getting. And that was the first thing that I heard when I got out of there, and when we were on the way back, was that somebody was telling me that they heard on the news that Antifa infiltrated the event. And that's kind of where I go on the other end, where I'm starting to kind of think that maybe it's possible that it wasn't Antifa. See, I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Huh. It is weird with the media being there, so like prepared for something crazy to happen.
But that was another thing. It was already trending on Twitter, and we were just leaving the lawn. There couldn't have been more than a couple hundred people there, and it was already blowing up. Now it was really odd.
Huh. Interesting. Jack Robin, thank you for the $14.99 super chat. That's awesome. So did you guys? I mean, you don't have to get into too much detail. Did you guys actually enter the Capitol building as well, or?
We got like right inside the door. So basically, it was a constant procession of people going in and out through the same little tiny door, and then a little tiny window. And this little door that we found, there was a little ramp going down, and people just back and forth. And the people inside were getting tear gas so bad they were panicking. And at one point, people just started panicking and like pushing hard, and it was almost like a stampede. And so I got right into the door, and that stampede started, and I just grabbed a law-abiding citizen here and just dragged him down the ramp like, no, not today, you know. So we barely got in.
Okay.
Yeah, I got pushed out. I tried to get into the. I was in far enough just to get video of the inside of the hallway, and the police. They pushed the whole crowd backwards, and that was when. I mean, there was a point I remember when, because I don't really understand. Maybe one of you can kind of tell me what exactly was it that we were inside of? Was that some kind of I don't even know what that was.
Those were it was the hallway to the offices. So they have a collection of private offices.
No, I'm talking about the what is the thing that we had to climb the stairs? Remember when we were going upwards to get up to the top? It was like a scaffold.
That was for the inauguration. They had scaffolding up, and we had ripped through all the tarp that covered the scaffolding, and we were climbing it.
Yeah, there was people all in that thing. It was crazy.
I thought they canceled the inauguration.
It was very convenient for us, I'll say that.
Interesting. So, were you guys there when what's her name? Forgot her name already. When the lady was shot in the neck.
Ashley Babbitt, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we could hear like they kept doing tear gas canisters, and when they pop those off, it kind of sounds like a gun. So we kept hearing those things going off, but not every time that it would go off would we see tear gas coming at us. So we probably heard it, but we weren't, directly in front of it.
Yeah, I didn't really, for the amount of bangs that we heard, I didn't get hit. I took one whiff of it into my lungs, but it wasn't, they weren't letting the tear gas out enough to hold people. I mean, there were some older people that were getting choked up, but I mean, as long as you cover your face, you could pretty much push through it. But there was a lot of bangs. I mean, I don't know how many it was. I mean, but
they were taking handfuls and throwing them out onto the lawn. I remember seeing, at least 10 canisters go by us, just in lines and lines, trying to keep people from marching further onto the lawn. And then while we were up there, they didn't launch a whole lot at us, but they were letting them off a lot in the building.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
The building was basically smoked out.
But we had such sheer numbers that as people would go in, push the line as far as they can, and then leave because it was too much. And then as soon as they were coming out, it was like they were replaced by 5 other people to fill that space. And so, at a certain point, there was just no stopping the sheer amount of numbers despite all of the tear gas. And there was some mace in there too. I could taste it.
Mm-hmm.
But people,
yeah, and
we were taking care of them. There's tons of water in that too. So you're recycling people and just getting them in and out.
I wish you could find somebody to talk to, if they would, somebody that actually got inside, because I've seen videos of when people got inside, and from what I saw, the police on the inside they were beating the crap out of people. I don't know when that was happening, but there was some video I saw of them beating people with clubs, and especially at night, because I don't know. It seems to me from the videos that I saw that what happened is they kind of let this thing fizzle out, and then at nighttime they really just started going hard and just. I mean they were beating up like I would say 40-year-old women. They were just beating them with clubs like they were nothing.
That's what I thought. I thought they were waiting for us to disperse so that when they got violent, they wouldn't be overwhelmed by people.
And that curfew gave them every license to do just that. Be like, oh, it's a curfew. You're out, past curfew. We have to establish order. But the curfew was at 6 p.m., and there's no way all those people could get out of there by 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm. And if you even had the cell phone signal to understand that a curfew was in place.
Right. My phone didn't work.
Yeah, and didn't it close the metro too early?
Yeah, like 7:30.
Yeah.
So I would have been like, I usually take the metro and I would have been completely screwed.
Yeah, and
So
I don't think there was any. I'm not sure if there was any kind of clash with like what happened at the last couple protests as far as the Antifa and the Proud Boys afterwards. I think that everybody. I don't know. From what I'm understanding, I think that everybody just kind of either obeyed the curfew or they got beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
BLM was out on Penn Avenue, basically waiting as people filed out. They were like attacking small groups, but they didn't. Like at one of the previous rallies, the police had a line between us and them. It wasn't like that. They were kind of like hiding in the shadows this time, trying to pick people off.
Hey, Radix, she says, how ridiculous that Antifa spent months trying to take federal buildings and MAGA boomers take the Capitol in less than an hour.
That was honestly, I think, the biggest change in the movement, because we were sitting on benches outside after it was all said and done, and we had like 70-year-old ladies coming up to us saying that it's time to take the government over, and that's the kind of you don't hear that from boomers. They had a completely different mindset today than they did in December. A lot of them became a lot more radicalized.
Huh. And
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because I've noticed that I usually come back from these things and I want to talk to everybody about it. But I've noticed that a majority of the people that I've talked to have had, and I don't know if it's because they weren't there, but they have really, they're really careful to not like praise it, and I think it's probably because of the way that the media has spun it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm already being doxxed over it. They're coming down hard on us.
Yeah, you can't talk about that right here, can you?
Oh yeah, I can talk about it.
Yeah, what happened? Because I saw that you were talking about that a little bit in the chat, but I couldn't really understand what you were saying.
Yeah, so a picture got out, that was shared between people we trust, and it got picked up, spread around a little bit before we had a chance to contain it. And next thing I know, I'm getting all these emails and messages that I've been submitted to the FBI list. They contacted my employer. My employer was there though, so good luck with that. Just a lot of things. I guess I'm trending now at my old high school, because that's all they have to do is sit around and talk about people they went to school with 15 years ago, 10 years ago. But it just started spreading like wildfire, and so now I'm just getting all these messages, and
It's undeserved, because what we did was we made a statement. We didn't go and we didn't burn the city down. We didn't even burn anything inside of the Capitol building. The paintings were still on the walls. We went in, we took a few flags. Some guy came out with a bottle of whiskey. We did all that and got tear gas. One person got shot, and then we left. We went home early at that. So them demonizing us just really shows you like the power of the media.
they've really turned people against us this last time. I mean, like, just looking through Facebook, I mostly have seen, all the kids I went to high school with are liberals, they squabble here and there, but these people are absolutely filled with hatred now. I'm seeing things like, I'm glad that she got shot. They all deserve to die. Put them in camps. These are people that just a couple months ago were saying like, BLM, we support it, but they're being a little too crazy right now. Now these are the people saying kill us all. And that's entirely due to the media's reaction. The first thing they said was that we were staging a coup and we were occupying a building. And I wish we were staging a coup, but that's how they spin it. They have in these people's minds that we actually had the power to take over their government. And talking about how people are afraid, this is how far gone these people are. I saw a buddy who made a post. He said, "Remember, guys, the people and the Constitution is sacred, but the offices and institutions aren't." And these liberals were arguing; they were actually arguing that the state is sacred. They put the state on the same level that we would put the church and our God. They put the state at that level, so they see this as an actual attack on them. And I think they've gone so far this time that most of us are just afraid to say anything. This isn't about them emailing your employer anymore. They're talking about getting the FBI involved on you.
But this is the thing that I don't understand is that if the FBI was to come after people that went to this protest, on what grounds could they actually what could they actually do besides talk to you?
Well, now they own the Senate and the presidency.
I mean, that's destruction of federal property. That's inciting violence, right? They can get you on a lot of different.
But I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about the government here. They can't even process traffic tickets. I'm pretty sure they're going to make an example of the 50 people that they have absolute headshots of in the rotunda. But the most of it is just to get the liberals all amped up. What their goal isn't to send the FBI after us. Their goal is to turn our neighbors against us. And I think that's where the danger's at. I'm not sitting here worried the FBI is going to storm my building. You know what I mean? But what I am worried is that they're going to turn our communities against us.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's something that I was thinking about today when I was deciding whether or not I was going to keep my pictures and stuff up that I put on IG. And, I started really thinking about it. I'm not too much scared of what they would do to me. I mean, I don't want to go to jail or get locked up or anything like that, but I'm not terrified to the point where it's going to make me change what I believe in and who I am. But at the same time, I think a lot of these people play kind of dirty. And it started kind of making me think about whether or not if they could knock on the door, whether they would say, well, if you don't help us and cooperate with us, then we're going to go after these people. So I don't know. It's funny because I've never really been the kind of person to really care about that kind of thing. But when I woke up today and kind of thought about what happened, I kind of realized that this isn't like the other two protests. This is, we stormed the Capitol building. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, confidential informants is a very real threat, and it will undermine everything. It's something we definitely got to keep notice of, because they'll come in and they'll, threaten to wage war against you and your family, take everything you love, put you in prison for 10 years, and that's enough to get anybody to turn over on just little friend groups and stuff, or maybe a Proud Boy,
Well,
there's also. Go ahead.
Look at the side effects, man. They're already talking about replacing the police force. What are the chances we're ever going to be able to do a rally again in DC after this, unless by force? I think that was, whether or not this was, a false flag, the outcome is ultimately exactly what they wanted, where they've got us in a position now, if we do anything from this point forward, we're terrorists.
Well, there's a guy that said something a long time ago that I was talking to in a cigar shop, and we were talking about 9/11, and this guy really wasn't a conspiracy theorist, but I was trying to explain to him why 9/11 was an inside job, and he was telling me that, and I asked him, I said, why don't you believe that 9/11 was an inside job? There's so much evidence for it. And he said, well, you know what? It really doesn't even matter whether it was or it wasn't, because the effect that it had was the same. And I think that's kind of a good way to look at what happened at the Capitol yesterday. It doesn't really matter, honestly, that much whether there were some people there that guided this thing. The effect, which was to make people think that these are a bunch of white supremacists and that Trump is a Nazi and we need to get him impeached, it worked.
What's really strange. sorry, what's really striking is if you go on any of these liberal things, like I'm on Imager, all of the posts that are trending right now on Imager are people coming together by the thousands trying to dox every single one of us. So it's really brought them together to root out us. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and well, no, that was all I was going to say. I just think that is kind of, it really doesn't matter sometimes whether or not something was staged or whether it was organic. I think that it was most likely a little bit of both. You know, I really don't believe that this whole thing was orchestrated by like the deep state. I think that people really were breaching the Capitol, but I think also too that these people saw, like, all we have to do is let these people in and let them tear some windows up and let them get some tear gas, and we have everything we need to give it to the media and to make this whole entire country hate Trump. You know.
Yeah, and hate us. You know, before this, they just saw us as, you know,
Sore losers.
Yeah, a bunch of pricks running around with bad opinions. But now they see us as a threat, like an actual threat to their way of life. And it's going to really change the way they treat us and the support for laws that are inevitably going to oppress us.
Yeah, and another thing to think about too is something that, you know, I've been trying to think about is some people will say, you know, you don't want to get these people on your bad side, like the authorities and the FBI and the deep state and stuff, and you don't want to make your life hard. But it's kind of getting to a point where I'm starting to think that, well, do you want to live a life like that? I mean, if your life is already being affected to the point where you can barely live because of these people, what does it matter if they're coming after you and trying to ruin you anyways? I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to say that I'm not saying that I'm 100% for just not caring about them, but at the same time, I think it's kind of like, if they're going to try to ruin your life to where you're social distancing inside of your house and you can't go outside, what does it really matter if these people do come after you and try to throw you in jail?
And that's why it's so important that from here on out we organize and we don't back down from our actions. From this, you know, we kind of crossed a point of no return where if we show any weakness from here on out, they're just going to obliterate us. And I think the turning point, you know, whether or not we were infiltrated, whether or not anything else happened, the fact was we did do this. We need to own up to it, and we need to make a statement that, you know, this is the beginning of something greater, that this movement is radicalized to the point where we, you know, you trap us into a corner and we have no choice. We will not back down and we won't stop until it changes. You know, I'm of the impression that we should occupy the building. We just should have stayed in there, and we should have fought a lot harder than we did. You know, I understand this is just, you know, the first thing. Many people weren't even expecting anything like this, but we've crossed a point now. We can't just go back to the way things were because they will never allow it. You know, it can only get bigger from here.
So what do you guys think about good old Lindsey Graham and the Republicans all basically? Well, what do you think about Trump disavowing the violent acts at the Capitol?
I think they've declared war on us, in a way. You know, it's this whole machine establishment coming in lockstep, you know, against us. In a lot of ways, they crossed a lot of lines a lot of people didn't think they would cross.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think the presidency is probably not what we think it is. I mean, I've heard Ron Paul say things like that. I mean, I think that there's a possibility that these guys get in there. I even think that's like that with Democrats. I mean, I would say probably Trump is sort of, I guess, like a Kennedy person. And what's interesting about it is a lot of people have been talking about, you know, him possibly getting assassinated. And that actually could have been, they could have kind of talked to him and kind of told him, like, listen, you keep doing this and they're going to take you out. Like, they're not playing, you know. And I think that, I just think that when these people get in there, they think they're going to do all this stuff. And I think that there's people behind the curtains that are like, no, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to do this and this and this.
Well, that's like, you know, there was a very valid theory that someone had. And, you know, I'm personally, I can't see either way right now. I think we need more information. I think we need time, you know, to see how the next couple of weeks play out. But, there is a point to be made that billionaires in the free market can accomplish, things 100 times bigger and 100 times faster than the government ever could. And so I almost wonder if Trump realized that if he pushes this any further, they're going to take everything from him. And you have to weigh that versus what he could accomplish on the free market with the money and the allies that he has made. He clearly doesn't have any allies left in government, but that doesn't really mean anything when we're talking about, a larger market out there. And so part of me almost wonders that if, he saw this as a defeat today for a chance to work tomorrow, maybe what he saw made him realize that there really is no way for him out of this, but that something could still be done. If he doesn't sacrifice it all today, that something could be done with a lifetime of the building that he's done for the rest of his life. I really don't think we can say one way or another until we see how he responds and what he does on the other side, when he's out of office.
Do you guys think that there's any chance that, I mean, I don't, but do you think that there's any chance that this whole thing can have any sort of turnaround before the 20th?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
Yeah, I don't really see. I don't know. Lynn Wood said there's going to be massive arrests in the coming days. So if Lynn Wood says it, it's got to be true. Radix Verum says, "What if Trump made a deal for his family?"
And that's kind of why I say that I'm in the middle of all of it. Is that any one of those things are a possibility. He could have been co-opted. Maybe he's waiting for another fight, or maybe he chose to save him and his family. It's hard to say, especially with someone like Trump, who has sort of been wealthy his entire life. Faced with the choice of losing all of that and then losing your family, he's not a man that's really used to losing. So, kind of what I said is, all of these theories are valid in a way. There's a lot of evidence for all of them. And I think we really just have to see what he does, not just from here to the 20th, but what he does as a man of the public.
Yeah. I know Warren Heiss says Trump needs to start a media company. I think that was kind of rumored to be something that he would do anyways. I don't know. He's banned from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the moment. So would he even be? Would his company even be allowed? Who knows? But
that was sort of something I was saying earlier too. Is that part of crossing this point of no return is that they're going to come after us in different ways. They're going to strip us of our wealth, of our opportunities. They're going to seek every possible chance to turn us into second-class citizens. And so it's really important from here on out. We have alternative media and things like that, but we really, as a movement, need to start focusing on, buying from conservative businesses, supporting conservative efforts, because they're going to starve us at every possible opportunity. And there's 78 million of us, right? There's 78 million of us. That's a significant portion of the economy that we could take with us.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, do you guys think that there's any way at this point to take things back? Or do you think that, because a lot of the people in the Orthodox world, they talk a lot about, kind of what Michael talks about, of getting off the grid and living in these Orthodox communities and stuff like that. I mean, I don't really, to be honest with you, I only see two routes. It's either you fight these people in an all-out battle, or you break off from them.
It's a totalitarian regime. It's a machine. It's coming.
Well, I agree with that. I honestly think that it's so deep and we're so far into it. We would either have to completely destroy every single office involved in the Republic and rebuild it with scrutiny and transparency, or we have to break away. There is no, and that's kind of what got us here, right? Is we elected Trump. We're like, all right, everything's going to change, but it's like, Trump is one piece, and he was already betrayed by everybody close to him. There is no president we could install that could do this. There is no amount of senators we could install that could do this. It really is a hydra. And so we either have to go all the way to the finish line where we're waving our own banner, or we have to secede. That's just how deep they really have infiltrated everything.
I think secession is coming. I think that's the next step. I think states are going to start to succeed, and I'm already myself. I was talking to somebody about this today. I'm probably going to be thinking in about a year if this stuff keeps up getting out of here. I can't. I don't know if I can do it.
We'll take you in our little trad state over here, Keith.
All right.
We'll accept you into our militia, but you got to join the militia and be a bullet sponge. You understand? But I'll give you a 40-round mag. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
This thing, I don't even know if it'll actually like stay in the AR because of the gravity. It's just gigantic. Wow.
Better buy your binary triggers now, man, because they're gonna get banned.
So, do you guys think that there's going to be any more protesting? Anything else after this?
Something's gonna happen on Inauguration Day.
Yeah, something is really going to happen.
I don't
sure.
know. I don't know if it'll be the same numbers because I mean, they've absolutely, scared the spirit out of the boomers. But something's gonna happen.
Huh.
I don't know about that though, because I thought that most people had the spirit scared out of them with the second protest, and the third one. This actually really surprised me because I saw more of a fighter spirit in this one than I've seen at the other two.
No, absolutely, I agree.
It's going to be wild.
I think it could go either way. Those boomers I was talking about, either, because the threat is higher now than it's ever been. So it could either go that way, or like you said, it could really radicalize these people. And there's evidence of that with the old ladies that we were talking to. They're, especially after what happened today with Trump. When you take people's last shred of hope that someone's going to fix the problem for you, who knows? Maybe they're all going to show up and fix it.
And this time we're coming in angry. We know that we've lost and it was stolen from us. We're coming in angry, and Antifa's, coming in angry because they've been so radicalized against us.
This time I'm coming in with bail money.
Right.
This is the first time
I don't think we're going to make it out of this one without some type of arrest.
Oh, absolutely. And, this is the first time that we've ever encountered anything like this. So you got to imagine the next one, there's going to be more masks, more gas masks. People got a good taste today of what rebellion looks like.
For anybody that's planning on going to the Inauguration Day, I highly suggest covering your face, being really careful about your identity and really careful about your safety, bringing safety equipment, helmets and all that kind of stuff for sure. Like, don't go without it. It's just my suspicion. I'm not saying anything, but I think it would be very wise to proceed with caution.
Yeah, and go with as many people as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah, use the buddy system for sure. Don't get leg cramps and lose track of your group either, especially at night. Not making fun of anyone
There this
specifically,
time, man.
but
I brought popsicles. I was good to go.
Yeah, we had Pedialyte.
And here's another tip: if you bring a group and you lose your people and they're holding up an American flag, don't tell the person that's calling, look for the flag. I think weren't you guys telling us that when we no, I got lost, and I think somebody was telling me, just look for the flag. Once you lose somebody in one of these things, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But before you guys sign off tonight, I need you to swear an allegiance to God's chosen country of Israel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we do that every morning, actually.
Can
We
I get
all
up
love-
and apologize for being white?
We all love Israel, and we want to send our children and offspring to die for them in a foreign war for them.
I'm gonna take a rain check on that. I don't agree with that statement.
That's anti-Semitic of you.
Yeah, it's very anti-Semitic.
Yeah, how dare you, Keith? What are you? Are you some kind of racist? Okay.
You know what's funny is I never was called a racist by anybody my entire life until about 3 years ago. Now people have labeled me as a Nazi and a white supremacist.
I got
Well,
called a
that's-
Nazi by a couple people today, actually.
Nazi. National? I like my socialism when it's nationalized, okay? I'll take you guys can cancel my student loan debt. That'd be great. Oh man, Rated Musician says Keith admitted that he's not for the gays. Send him straight to the gulags. We all love our alphabet community as well. So and we denounce all the violence at the Capitol building. And we were just there, our law-abiding citizens and Keith were there as lawful observers, and they obviously believe that any rioters and infiltrators or anyone that stormed the Capitol should be thrown in prison, in the prisons that they are clearing out for us. All of the violent, the very innocent people that have committed moderately violent crimes that are being released, they will be replaced with really bad people like us. So
thank God for that.
yeah. Let's see. Tatiana was called a Nazi once. How was that, Tatiana? How was that? I just wonder, like, I don't know, because it does seem like we're getting to a point, or at least we were getting to a point where people were starting to wake up to like the fake news and all that jazz. And then all of a sudden today it's like, oh my God, they're calling us domestic terrorists, and people are buying it. Like, why do you care? Who gives it? Like, at some point you have to just stop caring about the opinion that the enemy is positing. And then, haven't you learned the lesson with the media already? Like, who on this planet doesn't know that the media doesn't care about the truth? That they're going to call a BLM who's actually like committing real violence and burning buildings. That's going to be a peaceful protest. But who didn't know that we would get called Nazis and white supremacists and domestic terrorists? Like, who didn't know that? Who didn't see it coming? Like, are people really that retarded still?
You can't care at all what the media says. You can only expect the absolute worst out of them with everything that goes on from this point forward. We just have to charge forward with the same momentum and energy.
I don't care what liberals. Yeah, exactly like Warren here. I want liberals to like me. No, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer care what Republicans think. I don't care what Democrats think. I don't care what commies think. I don't care what moderates think. I just don't care. Screw all of you. Screw you all. I don't care.
I mean, that's another thing too that really shocked me about this whole thing was that there were a lot of people in the government that I like that were condemning what happened at the Capitol. Like Rand Paul was one of them. Tulsi Gabbard condemned it. I don't think she outright totally condemned it, but she did say that the violence was like not a good thing. And I like those people.
Well, that's just, I hope that really is a wake up call to our people, to the movement, that none of them care about us or our goals if it interferes with their reelection. And we don't need people like that. And I hope that this just shed a ton of weight off of our shoulders, trying to appease these people and get these people to like us. We don't need them. We don't need any of them. And to be honest, no matter what Trump does from here on out, we don't need him either. We don't need the support of any politician. And that's why we took back that building as a monument to that. We don't need them in there.
Yeah, but I sure would like to stop paying taxes to these people.
That's the next step.
But you don't pay taxes when you're in the gulags, man.
That's true. That's true. Rated Musician says, facts don't care about your feelings. Israel flag. Warren says, we won't be invited to the Hollywood parties if we keep it up. Well, I'm not a pedophile, so I don't need to go to those. Yeah, Tatiana, Trump is not our savior. That's obvious. If it wasn't obvious to anyone before this, it should be obvious to you now. So, I don't know. He was kind of like a mascot of the movement of nationalist populism, and
Well, he did his job. He made us not ashamed. Before that, conservatives were kind of just hiding in the dark, and Trump gave a light for people to gather under. I think he's
yeah,
done his job, and now it's time for some more powerful leaders to fill in the vacuum.
Well, I remember one time that I think it was Hunter S. Thompson said this about himself. He said that I need to die to get myself out of the way, because me as a person, I'm just kind of getting the way. Well, I'm getting in the way of what I am. And I think what he was trying to say was that, like, him as a human being was limited to what could happen if the ideas that he had were experienced collectively. And I think that's kind of the way it is with Trump. I think Trump as a person, as an individual, can only do but so much, but the idea behind what he stood for can still live if people will carry it.
I don't know. We only have so much time with 20 to 40 years with demographic change. We need something to happen pretty quickly. Otherwise,
Capital in one day.
that's true. But nothing came. We didn't stay. Well, we also didn't plan it. We didn't go with weapons either. So, but I mean, it was like let's hang out in a building that we're not allowed to be in. Basically, it was very. It was like sneaking into an abandoned shed type thing, like something teenagers do. But whatever. It was epic. Anyhow, we're almost out of time. That was interesting to hear your experience out there. Anyhow, any final thoughts from you guys before we sign off?
Let's get organized. We need some organization. We need some ground rules. What to say, what not to say. Do we talk to the media? Do we not talk to the media? What do we bring to protest? How do we protest? I think we need to figure all these things out and kind of lay down some basic ground rules so everybody kind of abides and we don't have stragglers going and doing bad optics interviews or making bad decisions. I think that's the next step. I mean, it's not going to happen now, but something we should kind of look out for.
Yeah.
We need to make people involved.
To what Keith was saying, that Trump had to step down to make way. He had to make way for the real fascists to come next. So, JK, that was bad optics. That was poor optics. Optics check. So, anyways, final words from everyone else.
I would say that, in my own opinion, is that the best thing that everybody can do right now is to get yourself prepared for this spiritually. And I'm not trying to be black-pilled, but I think that everybody needs to look at this as if things may not get better. I'm not saying that you shouldn't fight. I'm just trying to say that this, I don't know. I'm just saying that, take care of yourself and your family if you got one, and make sure that you're prayed up, because I think the gulags are coming. And I don't think that's, I don't mean that in a funny way. I mean, I'm being dead serious. Yeah. So, prepare yourself.
Yeah, Valiant one keeps saying that you still don't get it. All your enemies are Satanists, and they are way ahead of you. I don't think there's anyone in this live stream that doesn't know that already. So, I mean, we all understand that the elites are Satanists, right?
Which is why we have to be organized. Stay some steps ahead of them.
Well, they are ahead of. They have been planning all this for like 100 years, but it doesn't mean they're gonna win. So, anyways.
Right.
I'd say our biggest strength, is kind of also our biggest weakness, is that, we're just funny people. We get together, we laugh, and we have fun. And, from this point forward, though, people need to realize that the game has changed. We still get together, and have fun and do these things, but there's a real danger involved now. So when you go out there, understand that there are risks, and there are going to be moments when you have to be just as nasty as they are. You have to be willing to fight them as hard as they're willing to fight you. And these people are really, really willing to fight you. They will kill your wife, your children. They will burn down your town, your school, and your church. You can't get up there and just shout at them. That game is over. And so if you show up to these things, you need to ask yourself if you're honestly ready for this.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need.
Yeah, big time. I mean, when you go to these protests, understand that like what happened to Ashley could happen to any of us, and to really understand the gravity of the situation, that we're fighting for our lives and for our nation, 1776 style.
Yeah, and what he said is really important. I think that a lot of people, need to understand when they go to these things that physical confrontation is something that I think everybody should be prepared for, because whether it's with Antifa or BLM, do not let these people think that you're scared of them, even if you are.
Mm-hmm.
If these people even get a whiff, like if you go to one of these protests and you're walking back with your girlfriend or something and it's just the two of you and you have this look in your face like you're scared, they're going to attack you. I mean, it's just, I'm not a really tough dude, but I try to kind of keep I try to keep an attitude where I don't let anybody there think that I'm terrified,
Mm-hmm. And they've made it abundantly clear, that day was the day it was abundantly clear that we will never take this back through the regular means. There will be a fight. There will be a confrontation, and the only way out of this is going to be through some measure of force. And you need to understand that is the movement now. There is no way, no leadership, no political process that is going to pull us out of this. It's going to be you and your family and the movement. And that means that you have to fight.
You got to cross the Ruby Cube.
That's right.
Is that a fast food restaurant? sounds like a burger. You want a Ruby Q burger? Special Ruby Q sauce? Yeah, honey Ruby Q. So, anyways, let's check. I don't think I got any entropy chats, but did get another like a $1.99 sticker from who's this guy? From Warren Heist. Thank you for the $1.99. But by the way, folks, if you send, there is a link to entropy in the description. I get to keep more of that money. YouTube takes like 30%. But also, I wanted to let you guys know that there is a big purge coming from big tech. So it is likely that I will not last very long on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. So, especially after covering topics like we did today. So if you would, see the description where I have a link to the DLive. I only have like 68 subscribers there. I have like 1,000 plus here. So I want to start transferring everybody over there so that when the time comes, we are all set up and ready to just be in our new little gulag or little ghetto of DLive. So I appreciate everybody coming on today and appreciate all of you watching. So see you guys on Sunday evening.
Thank you, Sisco.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
See you around, man.
Thank you.